If you're watching the show on Tuesday, you are already locked in, and we appreciate you being a member of NewOrleans.Football. For everybody else, you're going to get this a day later, and you could have got it a day earlier. So make sure you sign up to the website, get all of our news, analysis, podcasts, videos, everything, and you can save 20% with the code NOF, 20% off your first payment, NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Get locked in, get right, get all the info. All right, welcome back to another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. We're coming to you from our original studio because our guys at Total Maintenance are still getting our AC right at the Veterans Memorial Boulevard location. If you need AC work, hit them up. If you need to get your day started, hit up PJ's. And if you need either and need to drive there, hit up my guy Matt Bowers, get a car from him at one of his many dealerships throughout the region. Best cars, best prices, best customer care, best everything, because Matt's the best at what he does, so make sure you check out one of his many locations. And I think we're the best at what we do, and we're going to break down this first OTA. You're going to get all of our insights, all of our thoughts, and just kind of everything else that we saw today. So stick around for that right after this short break from our great sponsors. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. This Father's Day, show your dad you appreciate his unique style with the Breitling watch from Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Make sure you're ready for the day. Father's Day is June 16th. And if not, maybe you just want to treat yourself. Smash that presentation, nail that deal, achieve that goal. Get yourself a Breitling watch from Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, 7713 Maple Street, between Adams and Burdett, Uptown, 504-866-5433, or visit them at friendandcompany.com. Hard Hide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show. I'm Nick Underhill here with my guys, Mike Triplett and Brandon Thomas. We're going to break down this OTA, and it is now time for the lead presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints, and they should be your official home for Father's Day. Go there and get your dad a Breitling watch. Show him how much you care. Make sure he's always on time. He's not late picking you up or anything like that, and he'll have that time set, and he'll keep you right. So make sure you take care of your dad. Take care of yourself while you're there, too. You can buy yourself one, treat yourself, and also check out the Florida Lead necklace and earrings that you see on the screen. The earrings are priced at $1,100, and the necklace is $1,350.
Like Nick posted earlier, football is so back. Today's lead topic is what stood out most during the first. We got to get the joke out, man. We got to get the joke out.
No, we're pressed for time, man. We ain't got time for jokes. We got to make sure Mike's on time, man.
You can buy Father's Day gifts for people you're friends with that are fathers, too.
Lead topic, what stood out most during today's OTA? We got to see about 90% of the Saints' roster out there today. We saw some things that were pretty interesting that we kind of figured were going to happen, but we got to see them in action today. Let's begin. What was the biggest thing that stood out to you?
Where do we start? There was so much. It's weird because this team did not add a lot of players this offseason. They added one marquee free agent in Chase Young, who was not out there yet. And one of their two early draft picks isn't out there yet in Kool-Aid McKinstry. And yet I still feel like it felt so new. I mean, it's just a new offensive coaching staff and what they're doing with guys and everything. We were so eager to see who's lining up where. How are they using him different? I mean, the two headliners to me were Trevor Penning at right tackle and Taysom Hill at fullback, right, when we get out there. And look, we've seen people experiment and move around before. That they're not reinventing the wheel, but everything about this team this year is reinvigorating the offense. That happened when I talked to coaches. That happened when we talked to players in the locker room. It just feels like that's your hope. You wanted some hope. It did not come in the form of a head coaching change or a quarterback change or major free agent signings or a wealth of draft picks. But it's in this new offense and how it's reinvigorating a lot of people.
So for me, like the main takeaway, it was definitely Trevor Penning. It was definitely Trevor Penning at right tackle. And, you know, you've been to London before. Like when you go to London and like you're crossing the road and the traffic's coming from the opposite direction, like it's hard to just even readjust to that basic thing because you have done it, left, right, left. Like you look the same way every single time when you cross the street because it's second nature.
You're not even talking about driving. You're just talking about
walking across the street. It is incredibly hard. So like when you're doing something the opposite of how you do it, it can be incredibly hard. And I was kind of locked in on Trevor throughout this practice. And I will say, like, it's hard to know, like, if he's actually doing a good job because he's not really live blocking. There's not actual live contact. There's people quit. But you can see if somebody's doing a really bad job or if they look confused or if something's, like, kind of too much to process or they're struggling to process it or there's an adjustment taking place. And he didn't look like that. Like, he looked fine. Like, there was nothing that stood out that was like, man, that was bad. That was alarming. That was... He looked fine at it. It looked like he was mentally handling the switch. Now, there's going to have to be a lot of testing of that to find out if that's a true observation. But I think the very first one, like, it was fine. Like, and that's like, if you tell me Trevor Penning is fine, like, that's a huge win at this point. So I felt good about day one exposure. Well, we feel good about day two exposure. Yeah. Who knows? But day one exposure, I think was fine. It was solid.
Here's what I like about the move. I didn't like it in theory because we've seen Trevor Penning swimming for 2 years, partly because he's behind because he's been hurt and he hasn't had the seasoning and then he lost some confidence and he's just swimming. And I'm like, why throw a position switch in on top of that? And look, a lot of coaches say it's not that big of a deal. John Benton today said, we don't think it's that big of a deal. And it's true. As he pointed out, every third offensive tackle in the league has to be able to step in at both. Automatically, 32 out of the top 96 offensive tackles in the NFL have to be able to play both,
That's a great point.
So coaches, like, we probably taboo it too much, and we probably taboo it too much because we covered Andrus Peat, and he was one that just could not do it, just never got over that hump. And there's a couple other guys who said it's hard, but I thought, man, that's going to be a hard thing to throw on to Trevor Penning. But somebody said something today, and it was Dennis Allen, I think, that said it. But John Benton was also explaining the move that is like a positive part of that, which is we just want Trevor Penning to like completely feel like, no, I am completely starting. Like, I'm really pushing the reset button on the video game machine. Like, he's healthy now, hasn't missed a practice yet, new coaching staff, new scheme, and give him the new position too. Just like everything you used to be doing, wash and start over from scratch and rebuild yourself. Maybe that is something that's going to help him.
Yeah, well, the thing that stood out really with Penn, and it's really building on both of your points, like, he's the guy who had a reputation at, like, a school of being, like, just, like, whatever he was, but now he's at a new school, nobody knows him, and this new coaching staff doesn't know him, but they know how to build him, and that's what they're attempting to do right now. John Benton told us, he said that all arrows are pointing up right now when it comes to Trevor Penning, so that means that that's trending in a good direction, and building off of your point of he seems more calm, I think he's more sure of himself. All right, I failed at left tackle. That part just wasn't cutting it. Now I got new people in my life. I'm trying to make it at right tackle, and I feel like I could do it because today he seemed very sure of himself. Just even going through holding the pads on the scout team for other people. Like I think this is going to be a good move.
He's embracing it at least, yeah. And I mean, I think that's a good thing. So that's huge.
Again, and if this sounds like overhyped to anyone, we're talking about a guy who he just needs to get from 0 to 4. Like, we're not talking about him getting to 10.
The hardest part is getting from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And he might, like, we don't know if he's going to get there. It's just day one of this has been okay. Like, and we've seen other guys switch positions and have struggles with it mentally, physically. Just they look awkward, and it takes a while to get there. Like, he at least looked okay out there. And again, we have no idea because he isn't actually blocking anyone. But a lot of the issue with him has just been like footwork and stuff like that. And look, I think another thing that's huge just for that right side of the line is that Penning and Cesar Ruiz both work out with Duke Manyweather. So they're working out together. They aren't unfamiliar with each other. There's communication. They've been training together throughout the offseason. Whether it's lined up like that or not, I have no idea. But they're familiar with one another, and they're kind of speaking the same language. They're getting the same type of training. I think all that stuff helps. Like, because there is a huge chemistry issue on the offensive line, and especially in a scheme like this where everybody's kind of working in concert, like, that stuff does matter. So that chemistry is going to help him too. So there's advantages here that I think are good for him. I think having new coaches is huge for him, all that stuff. So I don't know. Like, I'm surprised I'm saying this. I'm surprised I would feel good about him after at any point this offseason. But, like, I feel good about where he's starting from. At least
It'll
it
be a
feels like
huge help if he's out there on the field.
it feels like he has a chance of getting off the blocks at least.
Right.
And
Right.
who knows if he runs the whole race, but it feels like he's going to be able to get started.
Yeah. No, definitely. No.
Well, I was going to say, we need to get Edwin in here on one of these shows. I thought about this after Talia Safoga. Edwin is the master of London driving. So we need him to explain to us how he conquered that.
No, that is insane. Like he just goes over there and
he's one of one.
Yeah, no, I remember the first time we went over there, everyone was driving and there was like an offer to get in the car and I was like, hell no. Like no, he's just out there driving, man. Like it's insane to me that someone could actually do that. But
Right.
yeah, they're there. And maybe Trevor Penning can do it too. Like I don't know. I can't even. All I know is like I almost got killed like 7 times. Like between the 2 trips, I was trying to cross the street.
What were you gonna say before I interrupt?
No, but definitely with Penning, like it seems like I know it was just a drill and it wasn't live bullets, but he had the initial point of attack and then his eyes immediately went to the second level to try to see where he could, it was a drill, so you automatically know where it's going, but that's just telling in terms of the confidence that he has in himself. Moving on, Mike, you also talked about Taysom Hill and the change he made. Can you elaborate more on what you saw?
Well, yeah, look, at first we saw him working with running backs and fullbacks, and they split up, and he was working specifically with the fullbacks. And it's just, believe it or not, as many positions as he's played, I'm pretty sure that's the first time we've seen that. He talked last year about how he's going to spend more time in the running back room, and then he ended up being with the tight ends during when they did 7-on-7, when they did other drills. So he's still dabbling at both positions. He downplayed it a little bit and said, we're still experimenting and see where I fit. But man, fullback almost feels like it should have been number 1 all along for him in some ways, especially from a coaching staff that we know has had some exposure to some creative usage of some fullbacks. And look, Dennis Allen said, we're not going to see him at quarterback in OTAs and minicamp probably because Rattler needs those snaps and Hayner needs those snaps and Carr needs those snaps in the new offense. But then somebody followed up. So are you going to kind of like use him less in the QB runs that you did before? And he goes, no, we're going to keep doing that. You can start game planning for it right now. So they know what they have in this guy. And again, I just like creative new offensive coaches knowing that they have some incredible clay to work with in him.
I mean, there's a series of shows last year where I was talking about just put this man at running back. Like the thing that I like the most about the Stafford is a lot of the stuff that just felt like common sense things. It's just happening now. And it was like, wait, that was just probably like a common sense thing. Like giving Taysom Hill the ball behind the line of scrimmage and allowing him to get a full head of steam before he ever comes into contact with anyone just seems like such an obvious idea. Like, why would you not want to allow him to get this like head start where he can just blow people up and run people over? It's a great idea. Use him at fullback. He can block. Put him in that room. I think we talked last year, like just put him in the running back room so he can learn all the runs. He can learn all the blocking schemes. Like you'll probably be more effective if you know how everything's working.
Studying linebackers.
Yeah, all that stuff just seems like common sense. And then he's in the quarterback room. Like, please just move on from the quarterback thing. It's over. It's moved on. Like, that's not going to happen. It's over. Like, just put it to rest. Go up forward with everything else. They're doing it. I really, really like it. I mean, I could not feel, we'll see how everything comes together, but like the starting point, I could not feel better about this offensive staff, just the stuff they're doing. Everything just seems to be adding up and making sense.
Right. No, it definitely does. Like, it seems like, oh, snap. This is what all of this is supposed to look like. Like, Taysom is an athlete. He can do athletic things. He doesn't need to be penciled in just in one position. When we were talking to Rick Dennison earlier, he kind of compared, like, in my mind, I was comparing him to Taysom. You're like an offensive coach who just fits in where he needs to fit in around
Dennison's role with this team.
Yeah, he just fits in where he needs to fit in.
It was funny because Dennison was working with the fullbacks today, and he said, hey, I'm a rover. And when they split up the running backs, I said, I work with the fullbacks.
It's an important role, too. That fullback role is an important role in this offense. And if he can do it, it just opens everything up so much more. Again, it was just like, wow, this is making too much sense. And as soon as I seen him out there, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what he should be doing. Keep him the hell away from the quarterback room. Like, it's moved on. There's too many quarterbacks. That's not going to be his role.
Yeah.
Like,
to be clear, I also want QB power. I want that package. Taysom is coming in and taking the ball under center for those design run plays that with the threat of passing. But he does.
Here's the thing though, like if he's going to carry the ball 85 times this year and he's going to throw it 6, like spend your time in the room that's focusing on the 85 plays instead of the 6. Like
he can still line at quarterback when he does it.
If he's going to go out and throw a pass and he's just going to wing it, like I'd rather have him just winging those 6 plays instead of winging the 85 and just kind of getting by on the athletic ability. Like, what's that look like when it's polished and like, you know, you're actually learning how the holes open up and why they're opening up and all this stuff. Like, I think it can only make him better.
No question. We're going to talk more in our next segment about the conversations we have with those coaches. We got to also talk to Andrew Janocko, Keith Williams for the first time today. But the other kind of news, it was kind of news yesterday. DA but expanded a little bit more about the conversation he had with Marshon Lattimore and why he decided to have it. What was your, you know, you still can do a little body language reading that it, you know, like there's still wiggle room there, but did it feel closer than ever to you that Marshon's going to stay?
I mean, I've been hearing that you know, it's kind of more likely, you know, and I've been saying it too, it's more likely than not that he does stay because that trade offer hasn't come and nothing's come close to it. So my feeling on it is still the same, though. I think that there's always a possibility that someone has an injury or a desire and they call and they offer the 2 or something like that and it gets done. Like, I think the door is still wide open on that. The takeaway here is that it isn't a situation that needs to be thawed, though, necessarily. Like, I think there's still thawing that can take place, but I don't think it's so frozen that it's just not possible, that he has to go. He can't be here. They can't coexist. I don't think that's the case at all. So that's a good thing. You know, anything that's going to happen to kind of ease us out a little bit, I think it is good. If you're able to keep him, it's the best thing for the immediate future of the team. I think it's arguable about the long-term future of the team. Like that second-round pick, now that you have Kool-Aid in the building, like it could be something that, you know, it could be valuable down the road, but I think it's a salvageable situation. And, you know, I expect him to be on the team before. I still expect it now because, you know, that call just hasn't come. But I don't think the door's by any means closed on anything at all, like any of those possibilities.
I consider that positive because I am also okay with the trading him for valuable draft capital, and I'm okay with him playing because he might be the most talented player on the team. I did not want we have to get rid of him and give him away for free, and I didn't want the holdout. Like, those are the bad worst case scenarios. It does feel like they're going to avoid worst case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you know, whenever Lat comes back or it doesn't come back, I think it's going to work out for the Saints either way. But who else was missing from practice that stuck out to y'all? I know Alvin wasn't there. DA had some comments about that.
That always feels like a big deal. Somebody was next to me like, is it a bigger deal that Alvin's missing because they're supposed to be learning a new offense? We've heard that Alvin was one of the first people to fly in or you know, come into town after the new staff got here and meet with them. They just mentioned during rookie minicamp when we talked to one of the coaches, Clint Kubiak was saying that Alvin has met with them multiple times and learned a lot about this offense. And as we said on yesterday's show, he's having a vacation that means a lot to him. Obviously, you follow him on social media. Back in Ghana, right? That's where he's been this whole time, where he's from, and where his family's from. But so that one doesn't bother me that much. I'm almost more like, it is good to see Demario Davis out there. Cam Jordan, even though he's not able to participate, he's out there. The attendant Taysom Hill out there. Attendance was really pretty good for me. I think everyone else that was out there, I think maybe they had a family excuse or an injury, but I think we could get close to like 95%, but once we see more OTAs, there's nothing really disturbing me on that front.
Yeah, I'd like to see everyone out there on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah. I think it is important. You're trying to establish a new offense, a new culture. You're trying to dig out of this thing that everybody like supposedly was frustrated with last year. You know, I think there's a reason Taysom's out there. You know, he typically isn't, and he is right now. So I do think it's more important than usual. Now, do I think that, you know, most of the guys that aren't there can show up, mini camp, training camp, ready to roll, good to go? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely possible. And I think Alvin, you know, in Alvin's case, I believe we've seen him in like pictures they tweeted. So like he's been around throughout the offseason. We've heard that he's been around throughout the offseason. We've heard that he's met with people, but you know, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it really says anything. Like Tom Brady would skip these and then go win a Super Bowl. So it's not hugely important, but I think absolutely, like right now where they're at, like it's better to be there than not. Like I you know, for everybody, it's always better to be there than not. So I can't downplay it in that sense, but I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world either.
Yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world. As long as he's doing his homework and, you know, getting the reps and stuff on side when we're not there and working out and building camaraderie with the other people. I think that's very important. But what else, speaking of the Kubiak offense, what did you see? What did you see scheme-wise that stood out?
Man, they were motioning today, like on day one of OTAs. Like that was kind of crazy to see. Like the base install, like kind of has that stuff in it already. I mean, that was kind of something to see. One thing I noticed today with their practices is they were doing like half lines tied in with tight ends. Like that's something we haven't really ever seen them do before. Like we've seen the tight ends drill with them, but like the way they were doing it was completely different. Just the flow of practice, like it just seems, I don't know, it was just seemed more efficient almost in some ways. Just
well, they said what Dennis Allen said, they get in and out of the huddle quicker. Like that's one of the things he said he noticed about the new coaching staff.
All right, so I mean that's definitely something that's real. They were also kind of like getting some punts in without like shutting everything down for the punting, so that was a good thing to see today too. So I don't know, it's just kind of just getting used to everything overall. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some differences. Some of the concepts are, it's just some, I don't know, like some of these like modern route concepts you kind of see throughout the league. Like it's just kind of, that's what you're seeing. And there's only so many different ways to do things, but some things that you've seen like popularized other places that you saw the Saints like trying to implement, like they're already there. So it's just a couple little things. It's just, a different way of doing things.
We heard Clint Kubiak once too, and we all had to double check that. Oh, that was Kubiak?
Yeah, you let him up for lining up, Ron.
He's really a reserved guy too, but you could hear him on that one. So there's intensity. And again, we'll talk a little more about the interviews we had, but a lot of I can't tell you how many different offensive players said the thing that stands out first is attention to detail, and they will do it over again. They will get it right. They will go over the minutia. That definitely seems a big part of his makeup. One person I noticed on offense today was Chris Olave. It's so funny that he's become an afterthought in year 3. I think he was maybe like first or second on my list of people I wanted to see last year, probably behind Derek Carr. Obviously, in the new offense, was how's Olave looking? Is he getting stronger? Is he going to make contested catches and stuff? And now he was kind of an afterthought to me, but he might have stood out to me more than anyone on the field, even when I wasn't looking for him. I was kind of charting new guys in new positions, always trying to get the offensive line down right, see who was out on the defense. And Olave just keeps making play after play. He had 2 really strong catches in traffic, one on the sideline where he's between 2 defenders. So he really stood out to me. Jake Hayner's another guy who really stood out more than Spencer Rattler did today in their first head-to-head competition, the first of many. But he looked like the guy who had a little more seasoning today.
I'm going to do you a favor. Like when you say afterthought, you mean because like assumed great production and he exceeded,
I'm not worried
your
about
great
him.
bar.
I'm not worried about him.
Yeah.
I was like, Chris Olave's known commodity.
And he's exceeding expectations. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I still, I was saying a lot, and I think he almost got there if it wasn't for that little dip. Like the man is a superstar, and I don't think we talked enough about the ankle injury he was playing through last year. Like he would play games booted up, not be able to walk. You'd see him in town like dragging the leg behind him because like he wasn't getting around. And then by Sunday he's playing like because he wanted to get into the playoffs. He's out there for this stuff. Like that says something because he's very easily could be someone that could get away with staying away, and he doesn't. So. Credit to him, great player, all that stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
What stood out to you about Hayner today, man?
He looked good, confident, in control, accurate, making the throws, looked good rolling out. I mean, he had a great practice, and really the juxtaposition between him and Rattler, like it couldn't have been. Obviously Rattler's playing with the 3, so like there's a handful. There's a play down the sideline. Mike noticed the throw down the sideline. I can't remember who it was to, but it was a great throw. And the receiver just kind of got held up a little bit by the DB. And, I don't know, like against more.
It would have been Rattler's highlight of the day.
More skilled coverage. Like maybe there isn't the holding by the cornerback because they're actually covering and the receiver has a chance to get open, whatever. Like stuff like that happens. But he was a little bit, off. Like he was high on, I think, 3 throws. He got picked off on one by a linebacker because he stared down his target and they jumped the route. Like he looked like a rookie. He had a rookie practice against NFL players, and we're going to see some of that. I don't really put a ton of stock into it, but Hayner looked great. Like he had a great practice for sure.
A part of football being back, we got a chance to talk to a lot of people today. Talk about what your conversations were with the different coaching staff members that you were able to talk to on the offensive side. Offensive coach, the quarterbacks coach, Andrew Janoko, wide receivers coach Keith Williams.
Keith Williams is something, huh? He's a special guy. I think they got a special one on their staff. I can't believe he was so available, like that he hasn't gotten. I mean, he's worked for a couple teams. He's gotten to know a lot of people. He's worked with a lot of receivers. Can't believe this is his first chance to be like a top receivers coach for a while. Dennis Allen has mentioned him a couple times. It feels like he felt like it was a little bit of a coup to get him to, I think. Yeah, but I like the makeup of the staff. A young guy like him who's deserving that promotion, and then Rick Dennison and John Benton who feel like they invented this offense. And look, some of the veterans that we talked to for the first time too. So like talking to Rick Dennison and John Benton about what their philosophy is for this offense, and then talking to Eric McCoy, Nick Saldiveri today. We talked to Cesar Ruiz yesterday. Derek Carr talked about it today too. Like just the core fundamentals of this offense is so basic and so simple that it's brilliant. And that's why it was working for the Denver Broncos in the 90s and it's still working today. And it's like, they say everything when it's working right looks the same. And they're like, our runs are going to look the same, but you don't know where it's going. Our play action is going to look the same as the runs, and then we're going to sneak a gap scheme in you. And it's just so tried and true that they make no apologies for the fact that like this works. We're going to do it because it works. And Eric McCoy is super excited about playing in this scheme. Nick Saldiveri is super excited. They both said it's like their bread and butter. Taliasafuaga said it was his bread and butter. Maybe every offensive lineman claims it's their bread and butter, but you can tell offensive linemen want to be in this scheme.
Yeah, for sure. Look, the thing about Keith Williams, too, that I think maybe flew under the radar a little bit is that he was at Fresno State when Derek Carr was at Fresno State. And
True.
He knows Derek. Derek knows him. There's a comfortability there. And Keith Williams is kind of a guy that's not afraid to talk. You know, he's not afraid to tell you when you're screwing up, when you're making a mistake. He can kind of do it. And I don't want to call him an enforcer because like he doesn't really have like that kind of personality, but like he is somebody that can tell harsh truths, and that's kind of something he does. Like accountability is a big part about his coaching, and I think there's an ability there from Keith to go to Derek Carr and kind of correct him on some stuff. And if you're getting that, and you are a wide receiver, a young wide receiver, a very young, talented wide receiver who hasn't had like hard coaching, and your coach is able to check the quarterback, I think that gives you just credibility in the room. And I think it makes Derek more relatable to everybody else. Like, I think it's I think it was a very shrewd and calculated hire. And I think that was probably part of the thought process was that he could relate to Derek, and that would help him with his relationships with the receivers. Cause now he's one of the guys. Like it isn't Derek over here and the receivers over here. And then it's like, well, nobody's holding him accountable, but we're being held accountable.
Everybody's touchable.
I think now it's kind of just all, everybody's in the same pot. And I think that's incredibly important.
Well, and as you say that, the disconnect between those two last year was like, I mean, I know we talked to people privately that Pete Carmichael was taking the brunt of everything that was going wrong with the offense. And we know there was disappointment with how some of the position coaches were teaching it, because for half the season, the receivers and the quarterback were not seeing the game the same way. And there was like just a disconnect there, and bridging that disconnect would obviously be huge.
Everybody put their pants on two legs, you know what I mean? One leg at a time. So we was out there.
When I come back from commercial, Brandon's going to jump into his pants.
We was out there in that heat today, man. We was out there in that heat today. He was cooking. So but good. Everybody put their pants on one leg at a time.
You
like
sure?
Driving, like driving on the other side of the road.
You could be like SpongeBob, hook it up, and then jump into it. You got options.
That was beautiful.
You got options.
You tried to slick past it too.
Hey man, it ain't happened. What you talking about? But nah, we're gonna hit a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what high expectations we have and who stood out today. And when we come back from break, we're gonna talk about who gonna overreact.
We're gonna come back. We're gonna come back.
Let me cook. When we come back from break, we're gonna overreact to who stood out today at practice.
Overreact.
And then, hey man, and then we're gonna hit the Martin's question of the day coming up after this.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable, and they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000.
Are you tired of renting and ready to own your dream home? Contact Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, your trusted source for home loans. Our competitive rates and flexible terms can help make your home ownership dreams a reality. If you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, our experienced lenders are here to help. Our online application process allows you to apply on your schedule. It's quick, easy, and convenient. Visit us online at jeffersonfinancial.org to learn more. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Welcome back to the OG Studio. Our next segment is brought by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. We've seen some of this, but let's go one to two names each. After a small glimpse that we got today, let's overreact. Who are the players that suddenly have higher expectations, that we suddenly have high expectations for than we did a few weeks ago?
Trevor Penning.
Oh, no.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, a little bit. Look, he looked confident. Like, I think there's a possibility of him being viable.
That's the right word.
Not
That's
thrivable.
The right word.
Like, I'm not moving to thrivable yet.
Good.
For sure.
Let's see him viable before we set any higher expectations. But like, there's a scenario now where I think it's possible. I think it's possible he competes for a job, is how I'll put it. I think it's possible that he competes for a job. Whereas before I was kind of like, nah, like, you know, you couldn't count on him for anything. And I'm still not counting on him, but I'm giving him the ability to compete for that job. Like, the expectation that he's going to be competitive in the battle for right tackle.
I wrote this question because I have an answer, which I'll get to in a second. But just to build off your point, I felt better about the entire offensive line. Like, it was just kind of a reminder that Anthony Herron, who was, or Justin Herron, who was the backup right tackle, Lucas Patrick, who they just signed as the backup center. They had a couple veterans in those spots, and then they had Saldivari and Penning getting their first chance. We didn't see where Oli Udoh was going to be yet because he was nursing an injury or whatever, but like, they have options at least. Like, I feel good that they're not just like, these are the five and we're screwed if they don't pan out. Landon Young was a guy. They were working him out as a second string left tackle, even though he had probably had more experience at right tackle. They're giving themselves options, like, for viability. Same word as you, for viability.
Yeah, I think there's a scenario where it could possibly be viable.
Yes, a scenario where it could possibly be viable.
Be viable.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not Nick and Mike and Brandon say they have viable offensive line. Possibility of viability.
But
Definitely.
my guy that I wrote this question around is one that already is there probably among this whole fan base from a hype standpoint, but it's A.T. Perry. He made the play of the day today. He just went up and got one. Like, it came out kind of quick and high, and he got that hand up, and he was already up high, and we've already seen him high point balls, and he kind of batted it to himself, got it in traffic, and then Brandon and I went and talked to him afterward. The video's up on the YouTube page. He's like, I'm not calling it the Mike Thomas role to put words in his mouth, but that physical contested catch, guy you can trust, third receiver for this team. He wants it. He doesn't want to give that job up. And he said all the things about, like, yeah, last year I was kind of feeling my way through. This year I'm confident. I've been working. I've been putting on muscle. Like, I'm done like thinking, oh, he's probably the fourth receiver. He's a good fourth receiver with some potential. Like, he wants to be that third receiver. He really does. And my expectations for him raised a little bit today.
We aren't locking in on any dark horses yet, but anybody got dark horse candidates yet?
No, probably not. I mean, Kyle Hergel was one that I liked because he was an undrafted offensive lineman in the system, and he got a lot of second-team snaps today, but that's minor. Anthony Orji, one of last year's dark horses, made one of the plays today with the forced fumble. The linebackers and linebacker coach were super fired up for him, but no, nobody else. You got one?
Yeah, I'm big on Michael Jacobson, the tight end.
Oh, yeah.
I think he definitely has a chance of doing.
He used to play
something.
basketball, right?
He used to play basketball, and there's a penchant for these guys who have been around for a year to like show up this time of year and look a lot better than other guys that haven't quite caught up and settled in yet. But he's learning in a new system too, so the curve on that's kind of stunted a little bit. But we'll kind of see, at the end of it. But he's definitely somebody that's very strongly like under consideration on that list for me. We've seen 2 practices, and both practices, like you're like, damn, like this dude, he moves well. He looks the part. He's athletic. I think he has a chance.
Yep.
You also pointed out Lou Hedley was most improved today.
He looked great today.
Yeah, that was going to be who's
best
on my
practice
list.
we've ever seen.
Yeah, Hedley. Yep. It's now time for our Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Question comes from Neil Sellers. Neil asks, did Kendre Miller or Peyton Turner appear to be healthy?
Both of them did. Yeah, I mean,
that's a great question because they're 2 names we weren't talking about otherwise until that question came up. It was a great. Oh yeah, I forgot those guys deal with injuries.
Yeah, like Peyton, look, it's tough to judge either one, like how they're playing in a practice. Like you aren't getting live run, so I don't know. A guy breaks free, and it's just kind of like, well, did he really break free, or was like nobody really trying to hit him or even knock him off his path? So that's tough to judge. You could see DNs like kind of a little bit, like if they make a play in space or something, but like anything in the water, like nothing's real in the trenches. Nothing is real in the trenches, so you can't really judge them. But they both look to be moving well. I mean, and that's really all you can look for.
That's key. Look,
yeah.
I mean, I was hyping the crap out of Peyton Turner, and I don't feel bad about it. I think he had a fantastic summer last year, and a big part of my hype was he had the first entire offseason of his career. There's nothing that could help a guy like Peyton Turner or Kendre Miller or Trevor Penning or any of these guys more than having January through September before they ever step on the field. That is the first and most important step for guys like that.
There's a good Peyton Turner moment, too. I can't remember who it was, but he was like behind the huddle, like, well, the second team was on the field, and one of the young guys walked over to him, and I watched him like start showing him like how to do like a technique, and it was just like, damn, Peyton Turner's like a vet. Like you kind of forget that he's kind of in that role, but he's somebody that his peers at least look to for knowledge. So I don't know. I think that's just kind of like a nice little endorsement of him that you could really never get anywhere else. Like it's just one of those things where people aren't walking up to idiots, and he's somebody that young guys are walking up to looking for advice. So even though we don't necessarily see it, he must be regarded as being like technically sound by his peers, which is, I don't know, it's just
he's
a little something.
Getting a lot of time with the ones now too, because Cam Jordan's dealing with an injury, Chase Young's dealing with an injury, and that'll probably be true throughout OTAs. Tano Passanio wasn't there. We don't know exactly why. It could just be like a personal day. I don't know if he's dealing with an injury or not, but so maybe they'll split time. But Peyton Turner could very well get this whole month with the ones for all we know.
Going back to Kendre Miller, off to the side, we didn't get a chance to talk to him today, but Derek Foster and Kendre Miller's relationship, with Kendre being the top back out there, he seemed like a real sponge. Like Derek Foster had him to the side and was really telling him, like, I don't know what he was telling him, but Kendre was just nodding his head and really accepting it.
I wrote something about him last year just about the way he learned, because like I found it kind of fascinating that you would just watch him. Like if you observed him at a practice, like he was just kind of always there, and you could just tell that he was just like totally locked in, watching, learning, repping, and then like he'd go in and just do it exact. Like, and it was always like he was always doing the right thing. And I don't know, he kind of walked us through his learning process. It just, that's kind of how he does things. Like he sees it and then he knows it, and it's just kind of, it was just really kind of fascinating to just, I don't know, you could like really see him watching it, and it was different. And yeah, he is that type of guy. I think he just really is like kind of a astute observer of the game.
For our Tuesday viewers, we really appreciate y'all for being in here and putting your questions in for the overtime segment. You're about to be rewarded because we're about to really get deep into this and answer your questions. And for the people who aren't watching this live, you still have a chance to get in. What are you doing? Sign up for NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Catch you next time.